All right, let's pile it on. Let's get out of here. That's a lot of fish.
Hello everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Mecha and Monster Mondays. My name is Luke, the host of said podcast, and today we're going to be covering a very special film, a film with an incredibly long title that I'm going to pretend that I can read in one breath. The name is Godzilla, Mothra and King Ghidorah, Giant Monsters All-Out Attack, released in 2001. Alright, but along with that, we also have a very special guest.
Hey there, my name is Marco Esquivel. You can follow me on anything under Brainfolds, and I am a massive Godzilla Kaiju Tokusatsu fan.
And we love to hear it. We now have our second connoisseur on the podcast.
That's right.
And you have not only been a massive connoisseur of Kaiju podcasts, but we've known each other for quite a while, so I kind of knew you would be perfect for this type of podcast. And is very exciting, especially considering the film that we're talking about. But before we get real into it, I just want to give a brief, interesting little history on the film itself. So, the first bit of interesting trivia to note is that this film was directed by Shusuke Kaneko, who, if you remember from our previous episode, directed the Gamera trilogy, and also, along with that, brought back a fair bit of his crew actually from those films for making this film as well. And beyond that, actually, before even bringing on Kaneko for direction, it was originally going to involve the monster Kamekurus. Yeah, the ant monster from Son of Godzilla, which, who knows, we may be talking about that at some point in the future. Who knows?
Oh boy.
It may be happening. Who knows? But that proposal was eventually scrapped. The second proposal was Godzilla fighting an astronaut who transforms into a kaiju, which also was eventually scrapped. And so, on the third attempt at a proposal for the film, it was the possibility of more or less what the film is now, but instead of Mothra and King Ghidorah and another monster, which we will talk about soon, it would be Anguirus, Varen, and Baragon, who I just remembered was also part of this list, who is actually in the film, so
He made the cut.
he made the cut. He was the only thing that made the cut in terms of pre-production. But after that, they eventually locked down on an idea that, you know, to be quite honest and understandable, you know, not many people really know about Anguirus or Varen, or maybe even particularly care. So, you know, executives were like, how about Mothra and King Ghidorah? And so now we have Godzilla, Mothra, and King Ghidorah. Giant monsters all out attack.
They really needed this one to sell.
They needed this one to sell so bad, because another thing I also remembered was, like, they were like, hey, our last movie bombed so bad, we need, like, an instant hit, so we're gonna get, like, all the materials to make this a certified hit, which, now thinking about it, that's probably why they brought Kaneko on this film.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's like,
we listen, guys. They're in the boardroom. Listen. He fought a big bug last time. He did a big jump on it. Didn't sell. We need some fresh eyes. This ain't gonna work forever.
big bugs don't sell anymore. We've got to go bigger.
We can't go bug. We need something else.
We need 3 monsters.
Drag something from the vault. No, not the spiky ones. No, I want the other ones, the good ones.
What about fighting a big astronaut? No.
Get out.
Leave. What we need is... Wait, actually, though, we joked about Big Bug not selling, but they did put Mothra in it, though, so, like...
Alright, that bug sells, alright? That particular bug does sell. It had a trilogy of its own. This one, proven to sell.
Mothra is the only legit bug kaiju. She's the only one that's real.
Mm-hmm.
But, with that said, now we can transition into, like, the actual discussion of the film itself, which... at least on my end, I can say it was a lot more interesting this time around because, to be quite honest, like, you know, a movie that has Godzilla, Mothra, and King Ghidorah, I was surprised at how interesting the human aspect of it was as well in comparison to, like, the kaiju element, because, like, that was something we sort of mentioned before in, like, the last podcast, was, like, sometimes a good kaiju film really needs to have a good human element to work, and I was kind of surprised that, like, looking back on this one, it's like, oh, this one's actually not that bad.
Yeah, the character of Yuri and her dad definitely do a really good job just carrying the film.
Yeah.
But, you know, there's some other characters, like in Yuri's work, that have a fair bit of personality, but for the most part, those two do a pretty solid spectrum of how each side of, you know, Godzilla coming to shore and just wrecking up stuff affects the whole place. And, you know, we'll get a little more into the destruction aspect a little later.
Yeah, and I was gonna say, it's like, it's kind of interesting because, like, the news element sort of is, like, that startup point as to, like, why this character is interacting with kaiju in the first place, and it makes sense because, like, she's a news reporter. She's going out there being like, I gotta, like, get the scoop on this big whole silly lizard man and see what's going on. But, like, also, I like you mentioning the dad, because I think it is kind of funny though, because, like, she is literally just, like, some news reporter, and, you know, it's like, oh, but who's her dad? And her dad is like,
it's like the main admiral
yeah,
who's just tasked with fighting exclusively Godzilla and other giant monsters.
It's like, I am the head master of this entire division that is set out to destroy kaiju. What did your daughter do? Oh, she's a news reporter.
Oh, she does this little funny blog with aliens and stuff, you know. It's nothing
Oh
serious.
yeah. She does, like, fucking like fake paranormal, like type investigation stuff.
Yeah, it's like, even like in the movie, she like equates Godzilla to something like Mothman and Bigfoot. How, like, oh, well, you know, in the States they sell, so wouldn't Godzilla sell here?
Yeah, and which, I mean, like, I guess fair enough. Like, in the context of this universe, like at least in this timeline, Godzilla's only really, like, surfaced, I think, like, back in, like, 1954, and that was it.
That's right.
So, like, she would probably not have even been around for, like, that to exist in the first place with the whole, like, incident. But, like, it is just kind of funny because that's like saying, like, I don't know, like, Hurricane Katrina was like a cryptid or something like that. It's like, wait, what do you mean? This was like an actual real life disaster.
But think about it. If I were to snap some photos of it, you know, of it tearing a house from its structure and leaving a family impoverished, that would really sell.
Yeah. It's like, I get the mindset, but I also, like, what? Why? Okay, for sure, I guess, but, you know,
it's for the kids.
It is, yeah.
That's the justification she gives. Yeah. It's for the kids.
It's for the children, which, listen, real talk, that excuse only works in Gamera movies, as we all know.
Exactly. This does not play the same way in Godzilla. Yeah. If the little baby Godzilla ain't here, that ain't gonna play.
Yeah, I was gonna say, there is no playing around this time around, because, as we find out later on in the film, Godzilla is pissed.
Oh, he's so pissed.
He's super pissed because he contains the souls of every single person who has died through World War II, I guess.
Who died to the Japanese Empire.
Oh, yeah, specifically to the Japanese Empire, which was a thing that, like, when I was rewatching this, I kind of forgot about, if I'm gonna be honest.
I had, like, a vague remembrance of the whole Godzilla possession thing, but I forget, like, what are these ghosts doing? What are they up to?
So, like, and that was the thing, was, like, I felt like the point of this was going to be set up as, like, a thematic thing, because, like, for one, I hadn't seen this one in a while, so I kind of sort of lost my memory on, like, what actually happened. So I was like, was there some sort of thematic thing where, like, it is like a complete anti-war message about, like, you know, military escalation, and it's like the spiritual element with, like, you know, because, like, they say Godzilla's not here to protect, you know, the nation, he's here to protect the homeland, which is, like, the natural resources and, like, the mountains and so on and so forth. But, like, the thing is, the fact that Godzilla has World War II ghosts in him does not really have much bearing on the plot.
Oh, no.
It's just kind of a thing that, like, that one ominous-looking old man in the woods mentions, like, twice, and then, you know, kind of fucks off and we never see him again.
Weird fact about the old man, he's a professor.
Yeah.
In the movie,
Oh, right.
he's a professor.
I forgot about that. Yeah, because he has an entire like fucking like educational text about like the kaiju and all that sort of stuff. Which also, I gotta say, it was really funny when they cut to a shot of Yuri looking at the book, and it was literally like Godzilla, Mothra, and King Ghidorah like on the same page, and it's like, I wonder why.
What could this mean?
What could it mean? What is the significance of this?
A big old funny bug and a fucked up lizard? What is that?
And one with 3 heads. I bet this won't have any relevance to the story.
Well, goodbye forever, book.
Well, don't need this. Meanwhile, on like the news at the bar she's at, 3-headed monster and massive moth are destroying the city.
Well, a funny little horned guy's digging around the countryside.
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah. I was gonna say it's like there's also another thing that was interesting about the human element is that there's like these little like interspersed like almost episodes of like people just kind of being dicks and then getting killed by kaiju that felt very reminiscent of like 80s horror movies for some reason, because it was so like literally like it was just a dude and his wife just sitting in the car, and then like a group of bikers just show up
And they surround it. They steal a little shrine thing and smash it.
Yeah, like, well, that was the other thing, like when they showed the shrine getting smashed, I was like, oh yeah, I know where this shit's going.
It's an omen. Ooh.
It is an omen as obvious if it ever could be. And then yeah, you know, like they ride through the tunnel and get like squished real bad. But no, it is just kind of funny to me that like it is like set up and then immediately paid off by like having one of the kaiju show up, and after that,
even like happens later with like Mothra in the lake. These teenagers try to drown a dog, and then Mothra comes up and just fucking saves the dog, and like off screen cocoons the kids and kills them.
That one was so funny, honestly, because like literally like these kids were like, this dog is annoying,
drown it, let's put it in the lake.
They put the fucking this fucking like cute adorable dog in a box, and they're like gonna throw him into the lake, and it's like you could just like go somewhere else. But no, you have to set up that you're awful teenagers, so you try to drown the dog and then Mothra saves you. So it's like, okay, I don't understand the point of this, but all right.
But the dog was safe. It showed on the news. Dog's fine. He's doing well. He's probably dead now, but he's fine.
I was gonna say, I forgot about that. Yeah, like they literally cut to a shot of like the dog just sitting with the news reporters just like all happy, like right after all these like groups of teenagers got murdered horribly by like a cocoon monster.
Need some happy imagery to deliver the harsh reality.
Yeah, exactly. It's you know, as you do. But it is just kind of funny to me though that like the all of this is to set up the monsters, you know, because like we need an excuse for all 4 of these monsters to kind of interact in some way, and it kind of is odd to me because one, Godzilla kind of flip-flops between like roles of being like bad guy and good guy in a lot of movies.
Oh yeah, he like obviously his first depiction, he is just the harbinger of death. There is no way around it. Everywhere he goes, even just walking by, completely destroyed.
Yeah.
But the movies immediately following that portrays him as like an Ultraman superhero who is like defending the homeland of Japan from aliens and monsters and a big old sludge guy. Yeah,
and also like its own human hubris and like the I don't know, like the fucking guys who make like the Godzilla Park that are like, we will use the natural resources, and then Godzilla is like, I'm gonna stop you from doing that through defeating your monster. That happens, and but yeah, so anyways, it feels like Godzilla more often than not has kind of been a good guy in films, and I'm trying to remember if like the previous like Heisei era films really had him as like much of a bad guy either.
The Heisei era more like had him as this anti-hero.
Kind of neutral.
Exactly. He wouldn't like go out of his way, at least not too often, go out of his way to destroy Japan or whatever city he happens to be in.
Mm-hmm.
Instead, he just sort of goes there to just square up with whatever monster happens to be there.
Yeah, like literally it feels like the only reason he shows up is because someone else is there and he wants to like be like, nah, this is my turf, fuck you.
Exactly.
But this feels like the first time in a good while where he is just like straight up the villain.
Oh yeah.
And it's really funny to me because even though, okay, yeah, like you have Mothra, who has almost always been like necessarily kind of a more positive presence. You also have King Ghidorah that's also becoming a good guy, which, if I remember correctly, has not usually been the case.
This is like the only instance ever of Ghidorah ever being like a protagonist monster. Because, you know, in the beginning, he was just a monster who was just used to invade Earth. Like, that was his whole thing. They had to get all the other monsters to beat him.
Yeah.
And in the Heisei era, he was like 3 little Dorads that got mutated.
and then also became like fucking like robot Ghidorah.
Oh yeah, got cannibalized and all that.
Yeah, basically.
And you know, his triumphant return, he's like he's more heroic, really.
Yeah.
He actually looks kind of cute, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, like he's got a nice little presence to him, and yeah, he is becoming a hero. It's just too bad he kind of sucks at it, though.
Oh no, he completely gets bodied.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, that's the other thing that's sort of interesting about this film is that, like, the big brawl is kind of like in the title, but if I'm gonna be honest, like, they kind of all suck at fighting Godzilla.
Even like the poster they used to initially promote the film made it seem like Ghidorah was gonna be like this huge battle.
Yeah.
Like Mothra was gonna be there and Godzilla was like really like looking up at this glowing dragon, and like in the movie, well, obviously it's not a bad fight, but it's like they completely get destroyed by Godzilla.
Yeah.
And only get ahead like with like these little power-ups.
Yeah.
That so happens here and there.
Yeah, I was gonna say, actually, speaking of that, that does make me think that there was some slight significance to the whole, like, spirits of the dead kind of, like, subplot element, because, like, when I was watching it, I'm gonna see if I can look back at the note that I wrote. When Ghidorah's fighting Godzilla, there's a point where I wrote down Ghost Kaiju in all caps.
Oh, yeah.
And it feels like, you know, Ghidorah gains, like, a power-up, and honestly, like, that moment is super cool, but then is immediately followed up by Ghidorah kind of also sucking still.
Yeah, like that's happened before. Like Mothra or Rodan dies, and then whoever collects the power and gets like a big old power up.
Yeah.
This is the first time I've seen it, and it just ending as bad as it started.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, they the way I was thinking of it in my head is like Millennium era King Ghidorah is like nerfed as fuck.
Oh yeah,
he's just like super lame, but you know, since he's a protagonist, that kind of works better because, you know, he's more vulnerable. Like, that was something I kind of mentioned with Gamera, was like the reason Gamera works as like a hero is because he's a fucking silly vulnerable turtle. So you know, you can root for him more, and making Ghidorah kind of suck as much as he does kind of makes him feel more like you can root for him, even though he is, you know, like a 3-headed like dragon monster. Yeah,
and like I think the reasoning, I remember the reasoning for him just being so, you know, fucking pathetic in fights is that he's not done growing. He's supposed to have like 8 heads.
Oh, he's just still like he's in his like prepubescent era.
He's like a teenager. He has like 5 more heads to go. He was just kind of woke up a little too early.
I can't believe Godzilla squared up with a 12-year-old.
This 50-year-old man beats up 12-year-old.
Actually, speaking of 12-year-old kaiju, that I have to bring up probably my favorite kaiju in this film, even though they're like all classic in their own right. I have a very massive soft spot for Baragon.
Baragon stole my heart when I saw him for the first time.
He's just a little guy.
He's just a little guy.
He's just silly. He's got big ears, and and you know what? He tried his best.
He's got the best personality out of any monster here.
Baragon has the most kaiju swag out of all of these.
He is proud to be himself, and that is just something to admire.
Yeah.
He loses to a fight, but
he
puts up a good one.
He does put up like a pretty solid fight. Like, honestly, like considering like, so like Mothra has like the advantage of like, you know, a much bigger size than even Baragon, and also the ability to be a bit more agile.
Yeah, she can fly and all that.
Yeah. Then you have King Ghidorah, who, you know, is kind of a bit of a powerhouse because of the fact that he has, like, 3 big, like, dangly heads. Mm-hmm. Baragon is just, like, a fucking mole. He's like a big mole.
He's like, if I were to describe Baragon, he's like one of those wide dogs you have that's always going to have your back. It's like you could be the most wrong person in the room, and he's there for you.
He's the most lovable like kaiju pit bull, basically.
Yes, he's a kaiju pit bull. There we go. And
Love
this
it.
interpretation is just he's incredible. I love him.
Yeah, and it just kind of sucks though that he's in it for like about 20 minutes before just getting like literally exploded off the face of the earth.
That whole fight is shots. Like it's a boxing match.
Yeah,
Like,
actually.
he's got look at Baragon. He's like climbing the ridge. He's gonna jump on Godzilla. Whoa, he missed. Ah.
Honestly, like that also brings up like something I kind of do like, even though I won't say the technical aspects are as strong as like the Gamera film trilogy in my opinion. I really love some of the shot choices in this.
Oh, yeah, because a lot of that was definitely carried over from his Gamera films. You know,
Yeah.
the low angle shots to make him feel a lot bigger. Even like the aerial shots.
Yeah.
Make Godzilla and the gang to look massive.
Yeah, I was gonna say the aerial shots were some stuff that I kind of noticed, because like when you're talking about like it sort of looking like a boxing fight, I was thinking of like the shots that are obviously supposed to be from like the helicopters that are like pointing down, and you know at some point I forget what it was. I think like Godzilla like shoots an attack at Baragon that like sends him flying, and he accidentally like destroys a helicopter.
Oh yeah.
And I was like laughing my ass off at that moment, because it was like Baragon is like, you know, Baragon is obviously supposed to try to help the people, and then, you know, he fails horribly, so he just gets launched through the air.
I feel like there's another funny thing they mentioned in the movie. Like, they make it very clear that, oh yeah, these guardian monsters, yeah, they don't really care about us. They're more like defending the place that just so happens to be Japan.
Yeah, that is a fair point, actually, because like, yeah, like I mentioned before, they're like, I forget like who it was specifically. I think it was the professor that like gets thrown in jail at later on in the film, but he's like, they're not fighting for our nation, they're fighting for the land.
Yeah, the land, the sky, the sea, little animals, not us. though. No, fuck us. You know?
Yeah, which, you know, fair, you know.
Fair point. Cause, like, you know, the place just so happened to be called Japan. It probably wasn't always that.
Yeah, I like to think that like if the kaiju could speak, they'd be like, this place is called Japan. We call it fucking like Continent 12.
It's just land. I live here.
Yeah, it's just my house.
This is my house. There's a big guy smashing shit. I'm just trying to get him out.
God, I'm just like thinking about it now, and like, even though like yeah like Godzilla and Mothra and King Ghidorah and even Baragon are not necessarily fighting for humanity, I kind of think of it as like 4 different disgruntled housemates that are just all like sick of each other.
This is like their little last brawl.
Yeah, like basically all 3 of them are having an intervention with Godzilla to tell him to go fuck himself.
Oh yeah, and it's not going well. It is not going well.
The intervention resulted in all 3 of them dying.
Oh yeah, a big old fiery death even.
Yeah, especially for Baragon, but it is kind of interesting though that like some of the elements from Gamera kind of like come back in some semblance, because something I was thinking about throughout most of this film was how completely useless the military is.
They're just there, you know.
Yeah,
the JSDF. They're just around.
Yeah, like literally, like they most of the time throughout this movie, anytime they are actively trying to do something, it makes the situation like 10 times worse as a result.
Even by just not doing stuff, like in the final battle, they're just kind of like, oh shit, Godzilla's really destroying the city, should we engage? Not yet.
No, let's wait. And then there's even like oh god, I'm trying to remember like what it was, but like the one soldier who couldn't even get like Yuri to not like go towards the crime scene for whatever reason.
This gets the workaround.
Yeah,
runs past him.
Yeah, like quite literally. Like it's so funny to me that like Yuri is able to like actually like get to the stuff happening with Godzilla better than like the military can.
Honestly, like she's like following Godzilla on bike through the end of the movie.
Not just on bike, but also while holding a camera.
While holding a camera, that's just how are you guys like losing him?
Yeah, like you are being outbested by a journalist on a bike while also holding a camera, yet you are the entire military mass of Japan.
You couldn't send like maybe one helicopter. He would have heard that, but you get the idea.
Yeah, nah. But, like, it is kind of funny, though, because, like, I kind of thought that would be, like, a consistent theme throughout the whole thing. That, like, yeah, the military is not helping, but, like, it's the kaiju that actually, like, stop Godzilla in the end. But then I forgot, no, they all die. And the ending of the film is Yuri's dad going in, like, this little tiny submarine to drop the bomb in, like, Godzilla's gut, basically.
Yeah.
And again, because I hadn't watched it in a while, I sort of blanked out, like, on what happened at the end, because it made it seem out like this dude was, like, for real gonna die. Like, he was just gonna get, like, he does, like, the whole noble sacrifice goodbye. He even sees Yuri in, like, a vision of, like, I'm gonna pass on now because I need to do what's right. And, he does this thing, and then he's fine. And look, I know that I'm already, like, suspending my disbelief in a movie where, like, a kaiju is created through the ghosts of World War II, but also I call bullshit on that.
Oh yeah, that is a bit odd. Yeah,
it's like you put a nuke in his stomach, and yet you lived.
You put a little drill hole in his neck, and he just went kablooey.
Yeah, he went kablooey, and you're like, hey, I'm alive.
I did it, but don't come near me. Well, actually, I think that's a pretty neat little thing they put in there.
Yeah.
At the end where Yuri's gonna go hug her dad, it's like, wait, I could be irradiated.
Yeah, actually, that was kind of a nice detail because
like, that's something you forget in a lot of more recent, or at least like Godzilla movies prior. But,
yeah.
Like, if you're near him, you are at risk of being irradiated.
Yeah, and I don't know, like, I don't remember if there's any other films with that character, but I would have been interested to see, like, him having to deal with, like, the possibility of, like, the radiation for, like, several weeks or whatever. Be like, I wanted to see, like, what happens after that,
We assume that maybe he's fine. Maybe.
He could be, the amount of radiation you had was that of a microwave. Oh, okay, cool.
Nice, alright, cool. Sick. Dap it up, alright.
Yeah, it can totally be fixed. Nothing wrong here. But, yeah, and also speaking of the military, I have to mention something that made me laugh out loud, which was during the big confrontation, like its big final climax confrontation, when Mothra shows up and is essentially, like, evading Godzilla's, like, laser attack. She flies across the building where the military is on.
I remember this part.
And just fucking gets them, like, just super obliterated.
I think the funniest part is, like, the ground team be like, oh my god, I have friends up there, what are we gonna do? And then this one commander just like, nothing. Wait, nothing.
They're too far gone now. Sorry.
This same guy, fucking... Alright, so... I'm gonna set the scene. So Godzilla's destroying stuff. Ghidorah's already on the ground doing whatever, dying.
Yeah.
And so the military, they send these little drill missiles to Godzilla.
Yeah, I forgot about the drills.
They do nothing. So Godzilla turns around to these soldiers, and everyone's like freaking out. But this one guy, I swear, he's mad dogging Godzilla. Like, you could kill me, but I'll still win.
You'll kill me, but I'll never die.
Exactly. I choose to believe he's still alive. He withstood the blast.
If there's like a post-credit scene where he's just somehow still alive, he just like comes out of the rubble. He's like, I lived, bitch.
Some wizard or some shit. It's just that guy. You know what? You win. You could have died, but you won.
Yeah. Ain't that life sometimes? Sometimes you die, but then you still win in the end.
That's right.
Like being right in a debate that was totally pointless and was not needed, but then you find out later that you were correct.
You could lose a debate, but you won the fact that you stole their time.
Exactly. There was also some other interesting stuff, like when I was talking kind of like about like the themes about military, because the thing with like Gamera was, I think there was a lot more, it felt a lot more obvious that like there was like this emphasis on the military not being like the thing that actually like saves everyone in the end, because there's this big thing in like Gamera where it's like, the psychic connection with the child is what like actually brings about like the defeat of the monster in the end. Whereas in this one, it's like it's kind of almost like it was going to try to make that like an actually pressing theme, but then because it is like a major big budget Godzilla release, they were like, yeah, but we gotta,
it's just we got a certain identity to maintain,
Yeah, it's like, and it's not to say like all Godzilla films have been like an anti-military narrative necessarily, but it's also, it's also kind of, it's kind of baked in there to begin with. Like Godzilla's existence was based on like a horrific creation of like military destruction, but then again, also Godzilla is like protector of Japan at times, but not in this one. But like, this kaiju film does still have like there are good kaiju and bad kaiju elements.
I'd say so. And speaking of the military, there is still some like shady aspects that the movie goes over, like how they kind of cover up how the original Godzilla died.
Yeah.
Just by saying that, we destroyed him, but it's like revealed later that they covered up the truth that a doctor named Shirazawa built a hydrogen or oxygen destroyer.
Yeah, an oxygen destroyer.
And the plans were lost, and if it got out, they would have just been ridiculed for not being able to protect the nation.
Yeah, actually, that's a good point. That was something I do remember, was like the fact that another thing that like the original Godzilla was sort of interesting for was like the way that they defeat this monster created through military escalation was another weapon of military escalation, and they're like, we are kind of ashamed of that, and we kind of don't want people to know about that. And I guess more in the end, I don't necessarily know if it's like the entire military that it's like rooting for, but it's more so just the general, because he's he's an established character.
Yeah, exactly. Like he apparently, like the Admiral just like grew up when Godzilla attacked, so he's got his own little personal stake in there.
Yeah, he's got his own beef.
But even he like had his own reservation. Like, what, you guys lied about the whole us killing Godzilla thing?
Yeah. And
it was like, I'll do it myself. All right.
Fuck it, I'll do it myself. I don't need no oxygen destroyer. I am the oxygen destroyer. Come here. It's just fucking. But he is like, honestly, like I kind of like thought the first time around when I saw this film that like he would just be sort of just like gruff military dude, and then that would just be his character, and that like, one of the kaiju actually saves the day in the end. But like, no, he actually does have like a major development by the end, and does find a way to like, defeat Godzilla, but also like kind of sort of trust in the other kaiju, even though they all fucking suck.
Even though they accidentally friendly fired on Ghidorah.
Yeah.
Which, interesting facts, for the dub version of this movie, when they shoot Ghidorah, they're like, oh, got him, yes! But he wasn't supposed to hit Ghidorah if you saw the movie.
Yeah.
In the actual Japanese, they go, damn, fuck.
Yeah, I was gonna say I watched the subtitled version, and yeah, I was gonna say it's like that they were like very audibly like, oh shit, we probably should not have done that.
We biffed it. That's just
Meanwhile, American dub. Fuck yeah, we got Ghidorah!
What?
and
the movie's still going.
Yeah, it's like, wait, what do you mean Ghidorah was on our side?
Oh, shit.
Oh, gets like vaporized immediately. But, yeah. But I will say, there is some kind of interesting references also in the film, not just to Godzilla, but also to even like some of the people that were like in the Gamera trilogy, because in terms of Godzilla stuff, one, I noticed they had the twins from Infant Island when Mothra showed up, which I honestly forgot until I looked back at my notes. I was like, oh yeah, they were there for like 2 seconds there.
It was a nice nod, but also those two were also in the Gamera trilogy.
Oh really? Like those two actors or like those characters?
Yeah, those two actors.
Oh nice. And I will have to say though, I really like the cameo, but I also am like, they really do look like the Shining twins, like in that shot.
They do.
And I was like, oh, okay.
When I remembered it before I saw the movie again, I remember it being like a real sweeping shot, like a blink and you'll miss it moment.
Mm-hmm.
They spent a good few seconds on him.
Yeah, it was in there. I just thought like they were gonna go with Mothra and be like, like the twins from Infinite Island are kind of like Mothra's like hype twins, basically.
I'd say so. Like, sing the song.
Yes.
Sing it.
Sing the Mothra song.
I'll sing it myself if you won't.
Play Creep. They kind of just let Mothra do her own thing, which, very admirable. But it's also nice that you mentioned that they were actors in the Gamera trilogy, because another person that I wanted to bring up was this random police commissioner that shows up for 2 seconds that's also the police guy from Gamera, the silly police guy from like the Gamera trilogy. and I was super happy to see him because he's like one of my favorite things about Gamera. And
what's he doing?
Yeah, I was like, I like to imagine it's just the same dude, actually.
It's the same, you can't get away from him.
Yeah, like he switched jobs from being like a police officer to like some news reporter, because I just remembered that like he was playing like a really surprised news guy for something, and he was like, "Dude, did you hear about this?" And the dude's like, "What? No, I didn't know about Godzilla at all. What? No."
It was messed up in this movie, trying to kill himself. He was gonna hang himself in the forest.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It was that literally like that same dude. Okay. I feel like we have to like address that, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So.
That was...
Okay. So like listen, those like cutaway like episodic moments to reveal like monsters are all weird, right?
They're strange. Oh yeah.
They are much weirder than they have any right to be, but that one was just the most bizarre one of all of them, because it was literally like this dude was about to hang himself on a shrine, but because he decided to pick the wrong shrine, he now awakens King Ghidorah.
That's right. He sees a big old thing with big heads, and he tries to tell someone. They're like, "You should put it on your website."
Yeah, you should put it on your website.
Blog about it, man. Tweet. What are you doing here?
I guess this begs the question: do you think that man like was inspired to live afterwards, finding like the biggest like King Ghidorah monster ever, or do you think he was just like, I guess I'll just do it in a different forest?
I got big ass turtles. I got a big pterodactyl trying to eat my ass. I can't do it anymore. Ah, fuck dragon. Yeah,
I was gonna say like he's gonna do it in like one of the forests, and then Godzilla shows up for real, and he's like, yeah. might as well, and then just gets stomped. But again, what a fucking bizarre way to introduce King Ghidorah through. It's like, here's a man about to commit suicide. Holiday blockbuster, everybody. Whee!
Yeah, you saw Hamtaro before this. Yeah.
I will say though, it's like, I feel like maybe like something like that with a man trying to commit suicide in the woods is probably like a bit more common of like a thing than it is to like us, considering like some of the culture of like Japan and like that one forest like in Japan that's like notable for like suicide stuff happening. Mm-hmm. Now it just begs the question, which one has King Ghidorah under it?
Which one?
Where
is it?
Where
can I start a blog about it?
Yeah. Hi, I'm Jake Paul.
I just saw something.
I just saw King Ghidorah in the woods.
Follow me, but also don't forget to subscribe.
God, I wish Jake Paul would get eaten by King Ghidorah in real life.
It'd be a funny end.
It would be funny, and it would be appropriate.
I'd say so.
Yeah. But I will say it goes on from all these like little like episodes to like the actual big fight itself, and something that like I will say I kind of have to harp on just like a little bit is a lot of the climax of this movie takes place in one of my least favorite setups for a fight scene, which is underwater at night.
That was definitely a bit jarring to be sure. Granted, the fighting on land at night looked pretty good.
Yeah, absolutely.
But you add water, it brings it down a bit.
Yeah, I was gonna say, so like I love like a good nighttime kaiju fight, because like that shit's like the best aesthetic like ever.
Exactly. Hides any mistakes that happen, makes everything feel super cinematic, a lot easier to composite.
Yeah.
But you add water, it like it kind of shows more of the grain, I'd say.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, and not only does it show more of the grain, but like the whole like visuals just become like soup. It's like
and they have to add the little water filter, like to make it a little blurry. Like, no, we're under the sea now.
Yeah, which like it makes sense why in the context of the story, but I'm also like, you could have presented in a way that was a bit more convincing, I guess. But like at the same time, I don't think it's probably the smartest idea to put people in big, heavy rubber suits in the water most of the time, anyways.
Yeah, I'm sure that they had safe measures, but at the same time. Yeah.
You never know.
You never know.
But I will say though, I think like the actual fight like on land, that stuff is like great. Like because it's it's classic stuff, it's the whole like everyone shows up in like their big dramatic way, and then you get your sort of fight, and obviously lots of lovely instances of miniature destruction, but I think this also brings up like one other kind of harp I have with it, is that because this is like a much later era entry, there isn't as much like rubber suit and miniature work like going on at the same time. A lot of it is like, as you're saying, like composited into like like an actual real life shot. And if I'm being honest, a lot of them have those like that green screen kind of glare to it that looks really weird.
Like Ghidorah's big power up scene, you can see the little outline
right
in front of Godzilla, just like that
and
looks better on a worse TV.
Yeah, I was gonna say like if I was watching this shit on like a big CRT, like it'd be wonderful.
Oh yeah, it'd look great, but seeing it now, it's like I can see the smudge.
Yeah, you can, and there's even like a shot just literally of like Godzilla walking through like Japan that looks like really really flat, and like they just like pasted him onto there.
Yeah, that it definitely wasn't handled too well.
But like I mean, like when it gets to like the stuff that matters, which is mostly like in the climax, I think it really does work well. But I just think it's kind of interesting because I talked a little bit about this before with Gamera, that the same director made Gamera on like a third of the budget of like a Godzilla film, right?
Oh yeah.
And I can imagine like this Godzilla film was like around what it would normally be for like a Godzilla budget wise, because of just how much stuff there is in it. But like it is kind of interesting like how there is a very noticeable visual downgrade in some areas.
It's weird because you'd assume with a Godzilla budget that you can get away with a lot more.
Yeah.
Or at least like you don't have to cheese it as much as they had to do with the Gamera films.
Yeah. Like there's definitely some moments where they did have to cheese a bit up to just get it to work properly. But like here it's like like I noticed the cheese more a bit.
Yeah. Like they're using CG with like Ghidorah, Mothra, and Godzilla.
Yeah.
It's very noticeable. Granted, it's done well. It's just not done. Yeah.
And I guess I also have to sort of remember that this was made in like 2001, which like we might look at something that was made in like 2009 now and be able to see like kind of the seams a bit, but also like this thing is like almost 25 years old now, so like
and for what it is, I think it still holds up. Besides little scenes here and there.
Yeah.
Visually, I think it's still like pretty strong.
Yeah.
Not as strong as what Gamera was gambling at the time, but still strong.
Yeah, I will say like the one thing I can like just completely say is great is the actual rubber suit work.
Oh yeah.
Lovely stuff there.
The suitmation was incredible. Especially Baragon. I know I already raved about Baragon, but they put so much performance into just his personality. And I think the suit actor who was behind that, who was actually the first woman to do suit work in a Godzilla film, she did a great job. Especially like if you saw the little behind the scenes roar she did.
Oh yeah,
it makes Baragon just seem so precious.
If you're watching this and don't know about the behind the scenes, go watch the behind the scenes now, and you'll find her name is Ryota, I believe is her name, who did Baragon, and she does her own roars while filming, and it's the best, most beautiful thing ever. I love it so much. But yeah, no, I'm very glad you brought that up, because I probably would have brought it up as well. But even like some of the specific design stuff, because I love the fact that like Godzilla kind of has like these like blank white eyes. He has kind of what I'd almost describe as like Jaws eyes, where it's just like he's obviously just like this horrific kind of like thoughtless monster almost.
Exactly. I feel like that was a really solid design choice based on like what he was to the film, just this unstoppable force. So giving him pupils and all that probably would have like defeated the purpose of just a little bit.
Yeah, I was gonna say like a lot of the times when Godzilla has this is gonna be me being like design philosophy like person, even though you probably have a better understanding of design philosophy than I do. I was gonna say, you see, when Godzilla doesn't have pupils, he's a bad guy, but when he does have pupils, he's the good guy. That's all I can say about that.
And some of that is true. This way, without the pupils, it does make him seem a bit more unpredictable, a lot more sinister, especially when he emotes a lot in this movie, I'd say.
Yeah, like he actually does. Like there is like that's another thing about the Suitmation is that there is a fair amount of like actual like emotion and like kind of like elements of like the puppetry like going on, but like even without pupils, there's like still a lot of present emotion through the design.
Exactly. And what's interesting is that the suit actor for Gamera, for at least like the first two in the Heisei era, actually came back to do the Suitmation work for King Ghidorah.
Oh, really?
So in an indirect way, Godzilla did fight Gamera.
Man, I'm really surprised that Gamera and Godzilla has not really been much of like a big crossover that I can tell at least.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was pitched to Toho a few times by the people who owned Gamera, but it was always turned down.
Do you know why?
What is that? Oh, I thought you were asking, did I know why?
Yeah, I was gonna say, I was assuming you know why.
Maybe. I think it was just because it was like off times. Like it was like I think one of the times was like during one of Godzilla's like biggest hiatuses during like.
Oh, I see.
Right after like Final Wars.
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess if it's after Final Wars, that kind of makes sense because they're like, no more Godzilla films, even though that's a lie.
Oh yeah, you gotta wait. Long time.
You gotta wait a long time. How long? Fuck if I know.
We're gonna make kids fans indirectly and make them sad that no new stuff's coming out for a while.
So it goes. But that actually is really cool. Like, I mean, again, since a lot of the crew from Gamera were brought on, that does make sense. But it's kind of neat that like that he played specifically King Ghidorah, because like I feel like there's a lot more like work that goes into like Ghidorah than it does like some of the other monsters because of those big 3 fucking heads like flinging around.
They have like separate heads to work on, like when Ghidorah's like biting onto Godzilla in those cutaway shots, so it's like separate heads.
Yeah.
And obviously when he's like running around, that's just the suit actor and his arms working the stuff with those wires, obviously working the heads and such.
Yeah, which I guess like that's probably like another crew member that's like doing like the wire work to get those things to move in some ways.
Sure.
So I don't know if it's necessarily like the actual like suit actor themselves, but like at the same time you're having to carry 3 heads, so it's probably like a bit more like it's a bit more weight on your neck.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
That's one thing I'm always kind of curious about with like specifically like the suit era, like the rubber suit era of like Godzilla stuff, is like that shit must have been like uncomfortable to like even be in.
Also, another fun fact about Ghidorah, his design actually has a bunch of Varan designs because the person who was going to initially create the suits, they create suits for this film.
Yeah.
Was disappointed that Varan and Anguirus weren't in the film.
Yeah.
So to cope, he just added like Varan aspects to Ghidorah, like the little fins he has on his face.
Yeah. Actually, that's interesting now knowing about that, because I'm wondering like how much of like if you peeled back the layers on that suit, like how much of Varan is still like in there.
I did little touches here and there.
Fair enough.
It's like, if I can't have them, make my own.
If I can't have it, then I'll just sneak it in.
There you go.
I like that as a concept, is somehow sneaking in a kaiju into another kaiju. Someone should do that. It's like kaiju possession.
Oh, they did do that for Singular Point.
Yeah. Oh, actually, speaking of sneaking in a kaiju, I just remembered this. So you remember how in like the opening scene, which is just like a very obvious like exposition dump for people who don't know like anything about like Godzilla, where they're like, Godzilla was in 1954, and like us being like, yeah, we know.
I want to skip this part.
Yeah, get to the point.
I want to see him.
Yeah, how about you show him to me instead of showing me this dude talking to a bunch of people? But one of the things that I don't remember if it was the guy who was doing the speech said this, or if it was like the dude kind of sitting in that like classroom kind of like a place was mentioned 98 Godzilla because of the it's like something similar happened in New York, right?
Yeah, but our guys have doubts.
Yeah, it's like, I don't believe it. Sounds fake.
Fake. I don't believe it. Nah, didn't happen.
It sounds like a fake dinosaur to me.
Which, like, the director, he hated that movie, but did sneak in references to it. Obviously, there's that spoken word one, but, like, when Godzilla makes his first appearance, there's a big wave scene.
I was gonna say, like, it wasn't the scene with, like, the fisherman. It feels very kind of, like, reminiscent of, like, 98 Godzilla in a weird way.
I think in his way, it was, like, a way to show up with the real Godzilla, which works. I think it works.
Yeah. I will say, like, it is insanely funny to me that, like, ever since 98 Godzilla came out, like, almost every single Godzilla film seemed to have, like, a piss take on it somewhere hidden in there.
Like, that movie, it forced the franchise back out of hibernation.
It was a instance of something so bad that, like, the people are like, we need to clear our reputation.
I gotta clear this fire out as soon as we can.
Yeah, it is ostensibly the equivalent of, like, having, like, a shitty person that, like, somehow associates with you and having to clear up with everyone's like, I don't actually associate with this person. I don't associate with 98 Godzilla.
It's like when the worst person in your group project takes the helm. You have to you gotta course correct real fast.
Yeah, I was gonna say it is a massive course correction, even though it was probably unnecessary because, like, I mean, I think most people know that the 98 Godzilla film was not made by Toho.
No.
But then again, there is probably, like, a fair number of, like, kaiju Godzilla fans that are from America that probably wouldn't know somehow that Toho exists.
That's true, but that's fair.
Yeah. I just love that. Yeah, like every single remaining Millennium entry seems like in some way to just have a piss take, which whenever we get to Final Wars, we'll talk about that, because if Kaneko hated 98 Godzilla, I wonder what the director of that film thought of it.
I got a fun fact about that one, but I'll save it for then.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's for another time. Another place. But anywho, I'm trying to think if there's, like, anything else that I should, like, bring up about this.
I think there's just the big narrative change, because every other Godzilla movie has been very, very sci-fi, which, I mean, that's the biggest aspect. This one, very spiritual, like, not just the ghosts possessing Godzilla, which I believe is the original Godzilla.
Yeah.
The ghost de-skeletonized him.
I was gonna say, like, there was a little flash of something that kind of looked like that, like, when that was all, like, going down. So, like, I get that. I guess that was what they were going for, maybe, debatably.
Yeah, exactly. So there's no, like, big science jargon explanation of, like, why Ghidorah, Mothra, or Baragon exist. They're spirits. They're guardian monsters.
Yeah, which I honestly really love, because, like, I mean, the Gamera trilogy did eventually kind of go more into, like, explicit, like, sci-fi stuff, I think, with, like, the second and third film, but, like, there was more of an emphasis on, like, spiritual stuff, like, kind of from the get-go, which is a nice touch, because, like, I love me my really goofy, like, Godzilla sci-fi plots and all that, but also I do feel like there's something really valuable in, like, the spiritual element too, when you get down to, like, the themes and that sort of deal.
Exactly, especially with, like, monsters like Mothra, who bring in just a little touch of mysticism here. It's great that, at least in this movie, they kneel a lot heavier into that, which was, I feel, definitely a big change based on the franchise at that point. With the one before this, they open up a fucking black hole, which let a big old space bug in.
Yeah, I was gonna say
the equivalent of leaving your screen door open and a mosquito gets in.
You let the screen door open and like, shit, I let all the black holes in. God damn it, now all my light and matter are gone.
So this one was definitely, like, a risky change, but one that definitely that paid off. It was like,
Yeah.
from what I understand, it was like the biggest sell of the Millennium era.
Yeah, and to be fair, I mean, like, when you got a name like
Like Kaneko.
Godzilla, Mothra, and King Ghidorah, giant monsters all out attack. I mean, that's pretty easy to sell just on name alone.
Oh yeah.
Though, no one wants to say that whole thing out loud, except for me.
Though, obviously, the movie didn't get a sequel. I believe that's because of just, like, it was either that they had, like, another project in mind, which was, like, the Curio duology.
Yeah.
Or, like, just the director just had some creative disputes with Toho.
Yeah.
And so they decided not to pursue it.
Probably not, yeah. And I know, like, what else did Kaneko go on to direct? I'm going to actually quickly look that up.
He did direct, I believe, the live-action version, not the American version, of Death Note.
Oh, okay, so I was remembering that right. I was thinking about that, and I was like, that doesn't sound right. Something about that doesn't sound right. But then you pointed it out. I was like, okay, maybe I was right.
Yeah, no, if he did that, they're completely different story.
Yeah, and that was like, I don't know, like 2007. So like if they wanted to bring him back, he probably was busy with like that going on anyways. But yeah, I don't know. It would have been cool, but also like it does have like a nice conclusive ending for what it was, because all the kaiju are dead by the end of it, basically.
Oh yeah, they're Godzilla's just one organ.
Yeah, just a floating organ at the bottom.
Still pumping. Don't know what's pumping, but
Yeah.
it's doing it.
Something's pumping down there. Well,
Those ghosts deskeletonize him. They can de-skin him.
yeah, they can. Ghosts have a wide range of abilities, as we all know.
Super regenerative. But also, like, I really love like just the main sort of commentary the film's doing, because at the time, it's commentating on, like, during this time, Japan was just trying to steer clear of their part in, like, World War II.
Yeah.
And this, the movie comments on that, because Godzilla himself is, like, coming back, to rage against the Japan that has forgotten about all the, the lives that have taken, or, like, the lives that were given up for Japan.
Yeah, is almost, like, manifested as, like, the kind of atrocities that they tried to sort of, like, push down into the sea, rising back up again as Godzilla.
It's like, and Godzilla was like a good embodiment of that, because like in the movie, there are people who are going like, Godzilla is just a legend, and here he is back at it, destroying a city.
Yeah, and I think that is kind of a nice angle to take it from, because like, I mean, in terms of film, like, Godzilla is like, not real, so like in our world, not in the world of the film, but like in that kind of like reality of that film, like he is like an actual presence, and the fact that like, yeah, there are people who like are forgetting about him or think he's like fake is almost kind of like, when like parents talk to us about like stuff like Vietnam or like, World War II, and we have like the massive disconnect of it, that we're just like, that sounds bad, but I don't have the ability to truly comprehend that at all.
Exactly. It's like if that event were to once again spur up again.
Yeah.
Until then it's like it's very vague. It happened, but you don't really feel it happening.
Yeah. And like with Godzilla, it's kind of, I guess it's sort of like a parable kind of about like, forgetting history like ensures that it will repeat itself kind of deal.
Exactly. The Godzilla movies, they use him in this way to sort of commentate on just these tragedies that have gone ignored, are some of the best pieces of Godzilla media.
Yeah, and I feel like there's like, I mean, from the time we're recording this, there's like, Godzilla -1, which in its own way kind of almost feels like a sort of like soft remake of the like very first film. But like even then, there's been like stuff like Shin Godzilla, which is sort of like, even though it does, I don't remember it ever explicitly talking about like the events of World War II or necessarily like the nuclear bomb. It still is like a very present like theme that looms over everything that happens in those movies.
Yeah, like that movie, it commentates on like the nuclear disaster at a power plant that happened around that time, and just Japanese government's sluggish response to it. Yeah,
which and in some way like it can be easy for us to watch this film and sort of do like the whole like, this is another country depicting its own history, so it has nothing to do with us. But like the thing is, like, America created the nuclear bomb.
Exactly. So if you're watching something like this, you gotta take things in perspective, I'd say.
Yeah, and like. And for me, it's easier too, since I have a bit more of that perspective. But then you have like people who are just watching this for like big kaiju monster fights,
Big old fight, big old brutal monster fight,
big old lizard fights, big
old bugs are going SWAT.
Big fucking. I don't know why we put on a Cajun accent as we were talking about this, but but like yeah, like it is kind of funny to like think about that, because yeah, like as like an American audience like that watches these films, because all the Godzilla films have like English dubs, in some way. Like you watch this and you're kind of like, you could probably like feel the distance of it, but like to me, like I still kind of feel like its message even like nowadays, because like the thing about Godzilla that is always sort of like relevant is the fact that it's not just like a big old lizard. It's a monster created from like the real world events and the real world tragedies that are kind of like gave him the ability to exist in the first place.
Exactly. It's like it's just man's hubris coming to bite them in the ass.
Pretty much. That is like the most on the nose way to say it ostensibly. But yeah, and it's kind of interesting like that it would even be willing to sort of touch on it in that way at all, because like another episode that's going to be coming up pretty soon is like Destroy All Monsters, and like I don't know what you can say on like a commentary level about Destroy All Monsters besides like they all fight,
they got at it, they ganged up, whoa, the gang's all here,
Godzilla gang rise up,
the Godzilla battle pass just happened, look what I caught.
Godzilla in Fortnite ate my child. But like it is interesting that even an entry that is still kind of as silly as this one still is willing to touch on those things, but there's still like there's still like moments of levity, because I love like the bits where Yuri is recording like the Godzilla stuff, and like the people at like her news station are just like super hyped up about like what she's doing and her making it out alive. Mm-hmm. Like I really love that bit. Like that's such like a genuine and like heartwarming bit.
I say so. There's also just a lot of like physical comedy going on with the kaiju.
Honestly,
like just the reactions, like when Baragon's about to get blasted, he has this little pullback, like oh shit.
Yeah, he does like a oh fuck.
Even Godzilla gets that moment, like when Ghidorah powers up, it's like oh fuck me, it's glowing.
Yeah, he's just like realizing just like how like fucked he is at that moment.
Or like when Mothra tries to get the jump at Godzilla, it just kind of immediately turns around, destroys her.
Pretty much, but all right. I feel I kind of feel like we're kind of at the end of our like big discussion, but I think
so.
One thing I would want to actually ask more for you before we get into like our final thoughts is so when I set up this podcast, I usually go out to ask specifically like why, like what like movies or shows people would want to cover in the podcast, and I'm curious, why did you pick this movie in particular?
I picked this movie because it just has a very special place in my heart. It was like one of those Godzilla movies that really just grabbed a hold of me, but also it came out in 2001, and I feel like that's me. That's when I happened. Whoa!
Wow, you're as old as Godzilla, Mothra and King Ghidorah.
That's right, little 12-year-old that snuck in. But yeah, and honestly, I always fell in love with this version of Godzilla, and if I were to like pick one out from a line, it would always be the GMK version. Mm. And honestly, it's just a good movie. It really is.
It really is. And a lot of that can probably be chalked up to the creative team behind it, but also there's just a lot of fun elements to it.
And just the fact it's so different with just taking the more mystical, spiritual aspect that really draw me in. Like this is a solid one right there.
Absolutely. Well, in that case, I guess final thoughts. I'll do mine. Just a brief summation. I'd say, while it's probably not one of my absolute favorite Godzilla outings, I'd say it's probably one of the most like just very fully solid. I'd say for all the really fun rubber suit animation style work, and also keeping like a really strong story at its center with the human characters, but also some of its thematic kind of fixations with sort of the implications of like wars past and how those have been shrugged off and what that manifests into with Godzilla. And also just it's a fun movie. It's just an overall fun movie. And sorry, I burped. I didn't mean to burp.
That's part of your summary.
That's staying in. Anywho, your final thoughts?
My final thoughts, for what this movie is and for what it's done, while a lot of the visuals don't hold up as well as, you know, later entries in the Reiwa era, I'd say it still has a pretty solid and pretty important place within the franchise, and it did re-spark interest in Godzilla after 2 botches after the 98 debut.
Yeah.
And for what it is, it's definitely within my top 10 Godzilla films, and it's one of the Godzilla films, if I had to introduce Godzilla to someone and I had to pick one of 3, this would be one of them.
That's lovely to hear. And now we get on to the best section of the entire podcast and most intellectually challenging. Rank the monsters.
Alright, let's objectify these monsters. Oh yeah. We're both maniacally rubbing our hands.
Yeah, like
you can't see it, but you can hear it.
Yeah, you can pick it up on the microphone. I hope you enjoy Spotify.
There you go.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, it is kind of funny when I remember that we have this segment, because we just talked about for like all this time about like, oh yeah, these monsters as like thematic trappings about the lasting effects of warfare, and then we're like, but which is the coolest?
Which one would you put on a lunchbox?
Which one would you put on a sticker on your laptop?
Let's be real. Which one would you realistically recreate in Minecraft?
Which one would you want to hold your hand?
Which one would you want just to be there for you?
Which one would you want to call you on the phone when you're feeling sad?
Just say, please talk to me, please.
Anywho, I'm gonna let you go off first because I feel like you have more interesting thoughts on it than I would. Right,
so starting off with Godzilla himself, I'd say this is definitely one of the better designs to come out of the Millennium era. Like, all the ones before went very reptile. This one, from what I understand, it's meant to be the original Godzilla, or at least this version's interpretation of it. Mm. And I like it. You know, it does a great job at recapturing a lot of the presence, the menacing aspects of Godzilla. And especially with, like, the blank eyes. Like I said before, they add a lot of uncertainty to Godzilla. Like, he's very unpredictable.
Yeah.
He's also just straight up scary.
Yeah.
Just a little bit.
He's just a little... Yeah, he's a little frightening, honestly, if I'm being real.
And I'd say that he has a lot more, I'd say, Japanese dragon aspects to it, especially in, like, his face. He definitely emotes a bit more. But, you know, if I were to, like, rank this Godzilla, I give it a solid 9 out of 10. It's a good design. He looks very standard Godzilla, but does a lot different with, like, the hunch neck, the big old pot belly, which I respect.
Yeah, I was gonna say pot belly representation by Godzilla.
He's able to, like, which I don't know why it's never, like, acknowledged in the movie. He just blasts his laser and a mushroom cloud happens.
Yeah, I forgot about that. That was weird. I thought like that was gonna come out to something, and it never really did.
Which was one of my favorite shots in the movie.
It was really good, yeah.
But beyond that, this is a solid Godzilla. 9 out of 10 for sure.
Before we go on to the next one, I have a question for you.
What's that?
Would you say that Godzilla has a dad bod?
He does have a dad. He has a solid dad bod. He's proud of that. He's strutting around Japan.
Yeah. Godzilla's a good dad. I think. I don't remember Son of Godzilla very much, so I'll have to change my thoughts on that later.
He's a dad
probably.
who has different parenting styles.
Yeah, he alternative parenting style.
Listen,
Godzilla.
it's just discipline. God.
Anywho, before we get too much into that, what would you say about Mothra?
Mothra. Now, she's definitely gotten... I'd say, like, up to this movie, the Mothra design hasn't changed too much, especially, like, in her own little movie series. Mm-hmm. This one definitely goes for more, like, Hornet kind of design.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, it's a good attempt at redesigning, you know, a classic character. But I will say, she's looking pretty gangly.
Yeah.
Like, I know that's the point,
Yeah.
and she looks like she's able to fight a lot more.
Yeah.
But I feel like some of like the, I guess, approachability of the monster is kind of lost.
Yeah.
But again, it's not a bad design. I think it stays pretty faithful to the original design while, you know, taking some chances.
Yeah, exactly.
So for this one, I'd probably give just a 7 out of 10. It's not bad, but, you know, it's also not exactly one of my favorite designs of hers.
Yeah. What would you say about King Ghidorah?
King Ghidorah, this is a very different King Ghidorah. Like I said, you know, there's some aspects of Varen put into the design.
Mm-hmm.
And he has a more mammalian, you know, like Godzilla, dragon appearance, which I'm more prevalent here because he is a dragon.
Yeah.
And, you know, I like it. It's not bad. It's not a bad design. It's obviously just reflective of the character's new role as a protagonist.
Mm.
And I would definitely recommend, you know, looking into this Ghidorah a little more. This one looks like he's gonna handle your bags properly if you show up to the hotel.
He'll bring up all the groceries.
Exactly. He's gonna he'll stay after dinner for an appropriate amount of time. He's not gonna overstay his welcome.
Yeah,
he brings things to gatherings.
Yeah, he'll give you just the amount of love you need.
Exactly. He'll give you as much love as you need, as much space as you need. He's perfect boyfriend material. He's the best Ghidorah.
Three heads for lovin'.
Just don't expect him to. Yeah, don't expect him to be that on point. I'd say he's a bit of a klutz. I'd say.
Yeah, and don't expect him to fight a big lizard either.
He will get bodied. You're gonna have to step in.
Yeah, most likely. Now, that leaves us with one other monster.
And Baragon.
Baragon.
Now, this was my introduction to Baragon, so this will always be my Baragon.
Yeah.
And like I've been saying, I've been raving about Baragon.
Yeah.
He has the best personality. He's got the style. People confuse him for Godzilla, and for good reason.
Yeah.
He's got the confidence for it.
Yeah.
Granted, he could have used the fire attack he had in earlier movies.
Yeah.
Chose not to. Mistake. But still, like I said, he's a wide dog that's always on your side. You could be the worst person in the room. He's there for you.
His full name. So Baragon actually is his full name, but his actual real full name is Bara Wide Dog Gone.
That's right.
But we love him for it.
That's right. 10 out of 10, 11 out of 10, 200 out of 10. What's going on?
Every number, an infinite out of 10.
Any decibel cannot come close to how perfect he is.
Nothing can, no magnitude of measurement could estimate how good Baragon is.
His paycheck, the world's indebted to him.
He truly does have kaiju boy swag.
That's right.
But now I guess I'll have to sort of rank it as well, which I'd say is kind of similar to what you put out. I'd say for Godzilla, I gave him a solid 8. He's probably one of the better Godzilla designs, and I think the white eyes is a nice little touch. I think there's probably like a couple other Godzilla designs that I enjoy more, even if some of them are maybe for sillier reasons. But with that being said, this is honestly, it probably is one of the best Godzilla designs that I can think of. And yeah, and at least in genuine menacing aura. But with Mothra, I'd say probably like a similar thing. I'd say probably like 7, because like it's not really that noticeable of a difference, and also it kind of sucks that most of Mothra is like CGI flying, from what I remember.
I'd say so. And even like the part she's in, she's looking stiff, which I mean, it can't be helped for what, you know, kind of kaiju they're trying to depict.
Yeah, it's like you can only do so much. But with that, I will give King Ghidorah, though, probably a similar rating, an 8. Maybe even a 9, because I actually really like this King Ghidorah quite a bit. I'm a big fan of just like the design of those heads. I love the shot where the guy is like standing in the middle and like all the heads are just like showing up and kind of floating around. Something about that's really fun. And then obviously, you know, gotta give the 10 to Baragon.
Because what else are you gonna do? He demands it, and what are you gonna do? Say no?
You're gonna say no to that face? You're gonna say no to Baragon? If you do, you're an awful person.
You're done. No, you know what? You go anywhere, they say no.
Yeah.
You gave Baragon a 0.
You
If you didn't give him a 10, get out of here.
you didn't give Baragon a 10. What if I didn't give you a 10, huh?
Take that.
Take that, yeah.
Get your coffee somewhere else.
Now leave this Wendy's. But
Get out of the ball pit. You're banned from the clubhouse.
you're banned from the Kaiju ball pit at the Tumblr convention.
You're not allowed. You know what? You get to have heat stroke with the other people we forgot to let in.
You get to have heat stroke at the Twitter convention. Actually, only Elon Musk is there, and you have to talk to him only. Do you think you want to change your opinion now?
I'll wait.
Anywho, well, that brings us to the end of our discussion of Godzilla, Mothra, and King Ghidorah, giant monsters all-out attack. Thank you so much for watching, and thank you, Marco, for being part of this episode.
Not a problem. I had a lot of fun, and I hope you all enjoyed it too.
Yeah, I hope you all enjoyed this lovely episode, and I hope you all have a wonderful Mecha and Monster Monday.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
It's a kid. There's some kid in the cockpit of the Gundam, sir.